The Avengers was the show that had it all: sophisticated spies, futuristic gadgets, and trailblazing heroines. It was untouchable. But what many overlooked is that in its final season, the creators filmed something they should not have. We're not talking about a simple wardrobe malfunction or a risqué line of dialogue. We're talking about a scene so psychologically disturbing, it sent shockwaves through the network. They claimed the episode was lost to a vault fire, a convenient lie to hide the terrifying truth of what they had created and why the show had to be stopped. The 60s sensation. At first, Steed was just a supporting character, an intelligence agent lurking in the background. But when the actor playing Dr. Keel left after the first season, the show's creators faced a choice: end the series or reinvent it completely. They chose to reinvent, and in doing so, they struck gold. The thing nobody tells you is that this decision was one of the riskiest bets in television history. They took the supporting character John Steed and placed him front and center. But they didn't just promote him, they transformed him. Gone was the generic trench coat, replaced by tailored suits, a bowler hat, and his signature umbrella, which was far more than just a rain shield. Steed became the quintessential English gentleman, a figure of sophistication and wit who handled danger with a casual, unflappable charm. This new Steed needed a partner, but not just any sidekick. The creators introduced Dr. Kathy Gale, played by Honor Blackman. To put it mildly, she was a revelation. Gale was a brilliant anthropologist with a PhD and a black belt in judo. She wore a full-body leather catsuit, which became instantly iconic. This wasn't a damsel in distress. She was an intellectual and physical equal to Steed. In fact, many people are crazy about the fact that she was one of the first truly empowered female characters on television, often rescuing Steed herself. The on-screen chemistry between them was electric, full of clever banter and mutual respect. This partnership set the formula for the show's massive success. The most shocking fact is that when Honor Blackman left the show to become a global star in the James Bond film Goldfinger, the producers managed to catch lightning in a bottle a second time. They introduced Emma Peel, played by the brilliant Diana Rigg. If Kathy Gale broke the mold, Emma Peel created a new one entirely. She was a genius, a martial arts expert, and a fashion icon. The character was so popular she was given the nickname M. Appeal, standing for Man Appeal, because the creators knew she would captivate audiences. The partnership between Steed and Peel is what launched the Avengers into the stratosphere. Their relationship was a masterclass in witty dialogue and unspoken attraction. The show fully embraced its unique identity, blending spy thriller elements with science fiction and surreal humor. Episodes featured invisible enemies, killer robots, and diabolical masterminds in fantastical layers. It was a comic book world brought to life, and audiences couldn't get enough. By the mid-60s, the show was an international phenomenon, broadcast in over 90 countries, proving that British cool was a language the whole world could understand. But this meteoric rise to fame came at a cost, creating immense pressure behind the scenes. What many overlooked were the cracks beginning to form in the show's perfect facade. Behind the bowler hat. On screen, John Steed and Emma Peel were the perfect team, an unstoppable duo navigating a world of stylish danger with a smile and a witty retort. But behind the camera, the reality was far more complicated. The immense success of the Avengers created a high-pressure environment where creative egos, financial disputes, and the sheer exhaustion of production began to take their toll. You see, the magic viewers saw each week was the result of grueling 14-hour workdays, constant script rewrites, and intense physical demands. Diana Rigg, a classically trained actress from the Royal Shakespeare Company, was not just an actress. She was a stuntwoman, performing many of her own high-octane fight scenes. The thing nobody tells you is about the battle Diana Rigg fought off-screen. Early in her tenure, she discovered she was being paid less than the cameraman. As the female lead of a global hit show, she was rightfully outraged. Rigg took a stand, demanding pay equal to her co-star, Patrick Macnee. This was practically unheard of in the 1960s, and the dispute became a quiet scandal in the British press. While she eventually won her raise, the fight left a sour taste, and contributed to her decision to leave the show at the height of its popularity in 1968. Her departure was a massive blow, one from which the series would never fully recover. The most shocking fact is that Patrick Macnee, despite his charming public persona, also had his share of conflicts. He was protective of the show and his character, and the introduction of powerful female co-stars occasionally led to tensions over screen time and story focus. He and Honor Blackman reportedly had a professional but sometimes frosty relationship. With Rig, the dynamic was one of mutual respect, but the power balance was delicate. As Emma Peel became a cultural icon in her own right, Macnee had to adjust to sharing the spotlight in a way he never had before. And you can see this everywhere in show business. When a series becomes a hit, the pressures mount and relationships are tested. When Diana Rigg left, the producers were faced with the impossible task of replacing an icon. They cast a young, relatively unknown actress named Linda Thorson to play the new partner, Tara King. Thorson was thrown into the deep end, expected to fill the shoes of one of the most beloved characters on television. To put it mildly, the transition was rocky. The on-screen chemistry between Steed and King never quite captured the spark of the previous partnerships. The show's tone began to feel inconsistent, torn between its whimsical past and a desire to be more grounded. At the same time, the television landscape was changing. New, grittier spy shows were emerging, and the fantastical world of the Avengers was starting to look dated to some. Ratings in the United States, a crucial market, began to slide. The show was bleeding money, and network executives were getting nervous. It was in this climate of uncertainty and desperation that the writers crafted a new season, determined to shock audiences and reclaim their top spot. They went too far, creating a scene so dark it would seal the show's fate. The episode that never was. As the final season of The Avengers went into production, the pressure was immense. With declining ratings and a new partner still finding her footing, the creative team felt they needed to do something drastic to get people talking again. They decided to push the envelope, moving away from the campy, almost playful villains of the past, and into darker, more psychologically unsettling territory. This led to the creation of an episode, rumored to be titled The Minister, which was set to explore the terrifying world of brainwashing and mental manipulation. The central villain was not a diabolical mastermind in a volcano lair, but a quiet, unassuming psychiatrist who had perfected a method of breaking the human mind. The thing nobody tells you is that the script was controversial from the start. It depicted the villain capturing John Steed's new partner, Tara King. But his goal wasn't to ransom her or extract state secrets through conventional means. Instead, he subjected her to an intense, systematic process of psychological deconstruction. The infamous scene, the one that caused the entire firestorm, was reportedly about 10 minutes long and almost entirely without dialogue. It took place in a stark white room, a clinical setting that was miles away from the show's usual vibrant aesthetic. Here, the villain used a combination of disorienting sounds, flashing lights, and carefully chosen images from Tara's past to shatter her sense of identity. The most shocking fact wasn't the depiction of violence. There was none. It was the realism of the psychological torment. The scene was designed to make the viewer feel as disoriented and vulnerable as Tara King. The climax of the sequence allegedly showed Tara, her will completely broken, calmly agreeing with the villain that her partner, John Steed, was her enemy, and that she had been a double agent all along. For the censors, this crossed a line that had never been crossed on primetime television. The stylish, escapist violence of the Avengers was one thing. A realistic portrayal of a hero's mind being systematically dismantled was something else entirely. It was intimate, cruel, and deeply disturbing. What many overlooked was the context of the times. The late 1960s were a period of great anxiety about covert operations, mind control, and the hidden powers of government. The scene in The Minister tapped into these very real fears in a way that felt too authentic. It shattered the unwritten rule of the show, that no matter how dire the situation, our heroes were always in control, always ready with a clever quip. This scene showed a hero utterly broken, her spirit extinguished. It wasn't entertainment anymore. It felt like a violation. And you can see this everywhere. When fantasy feels too much like a horrible reality, the audience and the gatekeepers who protect them will recoil. The network executives knew immediately that they had a disaster on their hands. A decision had to be made, and it had to be made fast, behind closed doors. Silencing the scandal. The screening of The Minister for the network executives at Associated British Corporation and their American partners at ABC was unlike any other. The room was silent, thick with unease as the final moments of the psychological torture sequence unfolded. When the projector stopped and the lights came up, no one said a word. The verdict was already written on their faces. There would be no debate, no appeals, no artistic defense. The episode would never air. One executive reportedly stood, muttered that it was a disgraceful spectacle, and walked out. That was the moment the show's fate was sealed. You see, the fear wasn't just about audience backlash. It went deeper than that. The executives were terrified of what this episode represented. Television in the late 60s was still bound by moral codes and public expectations. This wasn't cinema. This was broadcast television, a medium that came into people's living rooms. The idea that millions of families might witness something so grim, so psychologically invasive, sent shockwaves through the boardroom. To them, The Minister wasn't just a bad episode. It was a potential scandal, one that could collapse sponsorship deals and damage the network's image beyond repair. Behind closed doors, a memo circulated among ABC's upper management. It allegedly described the episode as a profoundly nihilistic portrayal of human breakdown, irredeemable and contrary to the spirit of the series. That phrase, irredeemable, became the nail in its coffin. The executives decided that not only would The Minister never air, but it would be erased entirely. The orders were explicit. Destroy everything. In the days before digital backups, this was literal. The master reels were to be degaussed using high-powered magnets until the film turned to static. Copies were seized, scripts and production notes were collected, and the physical evidence was burned in an incinerator at a studio storage yard in Elstree. The public explanation, of course, was far less dramatic. A press release cited technical difficulties and production challenges. Later, a more convenient myth was spread, that the master reels had been lost in a vault fire. It was an easy lie, a common one in television history, and it gave journalists something tidy to print. But whispers persisted. Cast members later hinted that they had been forced to sign non-disclosure agreements, binding them to lifelong silence. Even the show's star, when asked about the missing episode decades later, simply smiled and said, "That one was never meant to be seen." This is where the story starts to blur into legend, because according to some accounts, The Minister did survive, but not entirely. There are rumors that one reel, containing only the first 10 minutes, was rescued by a member of the post-production team who couldn't bear to see it destroyed. Over the years, collectors have claimed to possess fragments, a film still, a piece of dialogue, a script page with handwritten notes in the margins. None have ever been verified. Yet the details they describe are eerily consistent. A shadowy government figure, a Hall of Mirrors sequence, and a breakdown scene so disturbing it supposedly caused one of the crew members to faint on set. There's another theory, one that has gained traction in recent years. Some fans believe The Minister was never meant to be an ordinary episode at all. They argue it was a coded protest, a subversive message smuggled into prime-time television. The director had reportedly grown frustrated with censorship and the network's obsession with glossy spy glamour. This episode, according to the theory, was his act of rebellion, a dark reflection of the show's own manipulation of reality and control. In this reading, The Minister wasn't just a story about psychological torment. It was a commentary on television itself, on how images can condition and control the viewer. There's even a more bizarre angle, a belief that the episode contained experimental sound frequencies meant to disorient audiences. A few technicians who handled the original audio tracks later complained of headaches and nausea. Some modern analysts claim these could have been early attempts at subliminal sound design, similar to methods later explored in military research. It's hard to say whether this is genuine science or just part of the growing mythology. But the fact that the rumor exists at all speaks to the strange aura surrounding the lost episode. Did the network bury the episode to protect the public, or to protect its own secrets? Let us know your thoughts below. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more hidden stories.